My name is David Cross, and I am almost 50 years old. I'm married, got 3 kids, a lifelong resident of the city of Detroit. I've been a lawyer for the last 20 years. I'm also a real estate developer. Got a couple projects here in the downtown, well, kind of downtown Detroit, in the Woodward Quarter. I've decided to run for Detroit City Council because I want to make a difference in the community. I've got some specific ideas about how the city of Detroit can do business better, how we can be more responsive to residents and citizens like me and my family. And I think I can make a difference based upon the credentials that I bring to the table as a lawyer, as a real estate developer, and quite frankly, as a lifelong Detroiter. Over the last 20 years, I've practiced a number of different areas of law, but I've settled down into mostly business and corporate law, law related to real estate development, construction, and some litigation. I think there are a number of different issues that we have to tackle once we are on city council, but one of the issues that's really important to me and what helped drive my decision to become a candidate for Detroit City Council is how the city and how government, how the city council and how agencies and departments deal with the business community. I don't believe that business and community are incompatible. I think they're complementary. And I think there has to be an understanding of how, from both sides of the table, how the two can work together. I've got specific ideas about how policy-driven decisions at the council table and from the administration standpoint, quite frankly, can benefit residents of the city as well as the business community to help make the city of Detroit better. My background for the last 15 years has been in real estate development, and I've had an opportunity to deal with just about every department in the city of Detroit that has anything to do with real estate or real estate development. And it's been frustrating, but as a process, as a part of that process, I've formulated some ideas about how that process can be better, how it can be streamlined, how it can be better business friendly. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, I think that if we adopt some of those recommendations as policy, we can put property back on the tax rolls, thereby increasing property tax revenue, increasing the population of the city of Detroit, and getting the city of Detroit back on track. That's just one of the areas that's key to me. It's an area that's relevant to a lot of folks who want to do business in the city, folks who want to invest in the city of Detroit, folks who want to help rebuild the city of Detroit. And that's one of the areas that I will pay particular attention to. One of the ways I think that we can look at improving the real estate development construction industry, for instance, and thereby increasing revenue for the city of Detroit by putting property back on the tax rolls, is how we have to look at the stock of housing and vacant land that the city of Detroit has. I think we need to change our policies in terms of how we work with the developers, work with the construction industry to put that property back on the tax roll. I have some specific ideas about what we do with our housing stock that is not generating any income for the city of Detroit. Matter of fact, at times it becomes a financial burden to the city of Detroit. And I have some specific ideas about how we work with developers to provide incentives for developers to come in and develop the city of Detroit owned land in the neighborhoods. One in particular is to not necessarily sell the land to the developers, but take blighted and abandoned property that the city of Detroit owns and provide an incentive for them to tear down the blighted structure and put it back on the tax rolls eventually as a new home or some commercial product, depending on where you are. And one of those is to consider the purchase price of that property, the cost of demolition. The city of Detroit cannot afford to demolish enough properties. But if my cost as a developer to purchase that land and put it back on the tax rolls is just the cost of demolition, then we can hit 2 birds with 1 stone, if we will. I'll tear down the property and it becomes safe, and we get rid of a lot of blight. And then the other incentive is if I develop it immediately or in the short run, I'm going to pay low property taxes on it, but I'm still going to put it back on the tax roll. And then eventually, if that all works out, and we can make that program work for everybody else, then it's beneficial to the neighborhood, it's beneficial to the city treasurer because you've got more revenue coming in from a property that's been put back on the tax roll. And of course, it's great for the neighborhood. I'm not certain that we've done a thorough enough evaluation of where we are. The typical areas where we decide to just make cuts, I think it needs to have a more thorough analysis of where we are, which is where a forensic audit or new policies about how we review our finances comes into play. I am not for cutting essential city services. That's the fundamental purpose of government, is to provide essential city services, public safety, water, sewage, those types of things, and quite frankly, public transportation. So those would not necessarily be 100% we don't touch, but they would certainly be the last on the list to cuts. I would look at other, especially non-essential services, to cut. We would certainly look at cutting salaries of top executives, if you will, in the administration, as well as city council staff as well. Let's look at cutting all the other places before we start talking about cutting the essential city services. And at the end of the day, we'll still probably have to cut. But I think what you do is you start looking at how we can become more efficient. Once we make those cuts, how can we become more efficient so that it's costing us less money, and then you can lessen the impact of cuts or not be as severe with the cuts as one would, as what has been proposed so far. It's a difficult job, and I'm not saying it's easy to do, but you do have to have a thorough and careful review of what's going on, and not just come right out the gate and say, hey, we want a 10% cut across the board. We're going to cut bus routes out and those off. You have to be careful about that analysis, and it takes time. You're not going to be able to do it overnight. Where you just look at it and say, okay, let's just ask the unions and everybody else to just take cut automatically, without explaining to them the detail of why and the careful analysis, and have that hopefully bring them into the decision-making process. I think that the department agencies, civil service workers, union folks, union membership is a valuable asset to helping us determine where cuts can be made, so we can lessen the impact in the short term and in the long term. Non-essential services are services, for instance, we own and operate several golf courses. And sometimes those are managed out to other folks, and we provide subsidies for them, etc. I don't consider a golf course an essential service. And so we can look at where can we look at those types of things that are important, but they're not essential for the quality of life issues in terms of just the basic quality of life and what taxpayers accept. So something like that, we can look across the city and say, what do we have in place there that we can bring back online later, but we can cut right now. And that's an example.